Good morning, everybody. You are currently listening to a Tall Girls podcast hosted by a tall girl named India. I hope everyone who's tuning in today is doing super fantastic. I am joined by a very, very special guest today. Her name is Alexis. Hi,
Mhm.
Alexis. How are you
Good,
doing today?
good morning, India. How are you today?
I am still kind of sad from my trip, but you know what? It's less worse than it was a couple days ago. So I'm okay. Thank you for joining me on a Sunday morning. Please, can you just take a moment to introduce yourself to the audience?
Okay, I'm Alexis Howard. I'm based in Washington, D.C., and I own, I like to say, a lifestyle brand where we craft fashionable footwear in extended sizes. It's called Etta Grove Footwear. I own it with my two daughters, Kayla and Haley, and it is the namesake of my grandmother, Etta, who was also an entrepreneur, a tall girl, and wore a large size shoe. So I'm 5'9", and my daughters are 5'9" and 5'11".
Wow, I honestly love that you also like named it after your grandma as well. I think that's so nice as a way to commemorate her. And you did mention that you were tall. And I kind of want to hear about your experience growing up as a tall girl, like the good, the bad, the ugly. Like, what was that like for you?
So, believe it or not, I used to be 5'11". So I'm over 50 now. And as life has it, I have shrunk 2 inches. I think your spine compacts or compresses or whatever you call it. Because my mom was 5'10" and she now is 5'8". But I was always the tallest one in my class. I was tall as or taller than my teachers in elementary school. I think I was like 5'5" in fifth or sixth grade. But I think like the biggest thing is that so kids are going to be mean, but like when you have adults that just don't know what to say, that's the worst. It's always like, wow, you're tall. It's like, okay, state the obvious to me, right? Yeah. So, of course it's harsh from other kids, but when an adult, just doesn't know what to say, it just, I think it hurts a little bit more because we expect more from them. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I understand that. And I don't know if that was like the answer to the next question I'm about to tell you, what you said a little bit before, but I do want to ask, like, what was something involving your height? It could be a question, it could be a comment. What was something involving your height that you hated hearing?
Yeah, I think that was it. Wow. You're like, whenever you start a sentence with wow, I never think that a compliment is going to follow that. So that was probably the biggest thing. Um, I think the impact it had, it definitely impacted my confidence as a child. But it just affects different aspects of your life if you let it. So like I wouldn't date guys shorter than me. And I'm sure there were plenty of nice guys that were shorter. That just wasn't an interest to me. Um, I think I shrunk myself in a lot of situations, tried to make myself look shorter. And so it probably impacted the way I walked and carried myself. So yeah, I would say that those comments from adults impacted me in a way that I should not have allowed it to.
I mean, you would think that most adults out there would think with adult brains, but sometimes my family says like some people grow physically, but they don't grow mentally. So,
Yeah, definitely,
yeah.
definitely.
So, going back to your brand, can you please tell us a little bit about it, like what your mission is?
So our mission is really to, like I'm talking about confidence and knowing how, so both of my daughters wear a size 12. I used to wear a size 11, and after I started having babies, so I think I wore a 10, then I wore an 11, then I wore a 12, and now I'm at a 13. Um, it It seems like every time I would get in reach, like it used to be 10 was the highest. It'd be like, oh, okay, now they're carrying 10s. Then I'd have worn 11. So each time it was like out of reach. So for years, even decades, I talked about to my children and my family about starting a footwear brand that address the gap for extended size options. So when I was younger, there were very few options in my shoe size starting at the age of 10. And so I would shop in the men's department. And at that time, things were not attractive there. Like I wore some unattractive shoes just to have the fit. I might have worn flip-flops year round, maybe put some socks on just to have that fit, or even squeeze my feet into shoes 2 to 3 sizes too small, if at all possible, with my foot hanging off the back. So nobody should have to endure that. Like, shoes are an essential life item. Like everybody wears shoes. So why shouldn't we all have a shoe that fits and makes us feel good about ourselves? Like, you have on this great outfit and then you get down to your shoes and you have on like some of the worst shoes ever. Like sometimes I felt like I should have just put some shoe boxes on my feet and just walked around in those. So that's what we're about. We're about empowering women who wear extended sizes to walk confidently through life because they have shoes that fit, that are comfortable, that are aesthetically pleasing, and all of that. That's what we're about.
I absolutely love that. I think that is probably one of the biggest struggles in the tall girl community. It's like, yes, finding stuff that fits, but also finding stuff that fits that actually looks good on.
Right, right,
So
right.
I absolutely love how you're tackling both of those issues. And you said that you do run like this business, you started this brand with your daughters. What is it like running a business with your children?
Challenging. Um, we just in life, all other aspects of life, we have different opinions. We're from different generations. We have different thoughts about the ways that things should be done, but we're all creatives. So, like, even before I started this business, I spent a great deal of time with my kids, like doing arts and crafts. We would take arts classes. We would just do different activities that were crafts, like we would make stuff maybe for a nonprofit. So that kind of transitioned over to the business. So I design all of our products and then we edit them together. So I like to say that we're classic but on trend. So hopefully we have footwear that you would enjoy wearing today and 10 years from now. But maybe our colorway for this particular season might be something more trendy. Like we have a houndstooth ballerina flat. So like this is a staple shoe, but maybe this year we did houndstooth before we did and we still have made to order nude colorways. Those are always being styled. So but also the other thing that's challenging in working with my kids is that the social media. Like, I think it's innate for your generation, but for mine, it's like we have to get adjusted. We have to wrap our mind around it, at least a lot of us. And so there are things I'll do, and they're like, "Ah, that shouldn't have been a post. That should have been a story."
Yeah.
So that's challenging in itself. But other than that, I enjoy spending the additional time with them.
Oh, that's so nice. You know, that's something that I learned I took a family business course in like my last semester before I graduated. And that was also probably like one of the main things as to why people started family businesses so they can spend more time with their family. So that's
Right.
especially, like when your children become adults and they're like living their own lives, it's like a nice way to like spend quality time together, aside
Yeah,
from,
I'm
yeah.
sure they enjoy getting the to-do list from me.
I'm sure deep down they do.
Yeah.
And you were talking like a little bit about the mission of the brand and how you address the challenges of your customers and stuff. And I want to go a little bit more into detail about how specifically do you guys like work to make women with different proportions, specifically larger feet, feel more beautiful in their own skin.
So, like I said, wearing a large size is a pain point for us. So, in starting the business, of course, we're going to work from the experiences that we've had. So, like one big one is like I never wanted a shoe to look like a Ronald McDonald, big red clown shoe, right? So
Yeah.
you want it to be fit your foot, but to the extent that we can kind of reduce the look of the length, like that's something that we would consider. So when I design the shoe, I'm designing from the perspective of someone who wears a large shoe size. So our prototypes and our samples are size 12. Sometimes we do a size 9, but usually, so we're 9 medium to 14 medium for now. So our sample size is generally a size 12, and a lot of people wear a size 12. So, when looking at the shoe, and designing it, I designed so, hey, we don't want this to look too long on someone's foot. Also, I always remember going in to buy shoes and it'd be like, oh, okay, you need a 10 and a half. Okay, so we have an 11. Well, I don't wear an 11. I wear a 10 and a half. So we have whole and half sizes for our footwear so that you don't have to jump a whole shoe size or an additional half a size. So that was really important to us. And just the quality and the standards for our partner factories. Like, I mean, of course, there are a lot of fast fashion places where you can get a really inexpensive shoe, perhaps in a 9 or a 10, or even an 11. Of course, as you get to the higher sizes, is less likely. But you're going to wear those shoes maybe this summer, and then after that, they'll probably be ready for the trash. So it's really important to us that you have a shoe that when it's time or it needs repair, you can take it to a cobbler for them to replace the sole or replace something on it, a fastener, rather than you just throwing it away. So I mean, we want people to wear stuff that is quality, that looks good on them, and that fits them well. And it's really important. Like, who wants to wear something that's uncomfortable? And that's important to us too.
Yeah, that definitely goes back to your point of like making timeless pieces and that opens up the door, I guess you could say, for sustainability in
Right,
fashion.
right.
So that is definitely very important. And I also kind of wanted to ask a little bit about your process. For some reason, I feel like I don't ask like business owners what their process is from like ideation, design, all the way to getting it to the customer. So I kind of
Right.
want to ask you this, like I mean, it doesn't have to be like, a whole essay, of course, but
Mhm.
what is the process of you guys ideating these designs all the way to getting it to the customer?
So, like, so the other day and some nights, I just have wake up with dreams of a shoe that I want to do. And I'm like, oh my gosh, let me get that on paper. And just to show you, this was like the book for our first year. I
Wow,
just happen to have it here.
a
And
lot.
these are just like some of the designs and like notes and like things like inspirations, just things. And like I would draw and then I would make a note about a particular shoe, like colored top stitching, different material on the back, arch support as someone who has flat feet, arch support is really
Yeah.
important. Cushioning for ball of foot, like all of those things are in here. And so I have different ones, just like this is kind of how our logo came about. It was like,
Oh,
okay, at first it was a bow, but then we're like, oh, okay, no, we're going to get rid of the tails. Like all of
yeah.
those things are in this sketchbook, like real old school for me. I don't have any, I use Canva, but at this time I don't have any design software, which I would love to get eventually.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that's kind of my process. And so a lot of people don't know this. So when you create a design and you draw it out and you send what is called a tech pack or specifications to your partner factory, and you
Hmm.
tell them, on this particular shoe, I want, the vamp to be denim, or I want the lug sole to be inch thick, or you give all of those specifications. And what they do is they create what is called a last. And
Okay.
so this determines what the shoe is going to look like. So this particular last kind of has a round toe.
Hmm.
This is probably like a low heel here. It's probably a shoe and not a boot. And so this determines, so from those specifications, they make this. And then that is what determines how the shoe is going to look. So, and then from that, they send us a prototype, which
Okay.
is just one shoe, and then we make edits to it, and then they send us a sample, which is a pair of shoes. And so sometimes we have an edit after that, like if we wear it and we're like, oh no, this needs a little more cushioning, then we kind of go back and then they make an edit to the sample. So that's kind of the like a real short summary of the process.
Wow, that sounds really cool and kind of long. How long does the whole entire thing take?
So it depends what factory you work with. So our first factory was a great factory in terms of their craftsmanship, but they were really slow.
Oh,
So like it was really hard for us. Like, and so also as a startup, we were not a priority.
mm.
So they had other designer brands that they produced for. So we were like at the bottom of the list for them getting to our product. But our current factory, so from me getting them like a tech pack and all of that, it probably would take maybe 4 to 6 weeks for them to get a prototype. And in between that time, they're sending me pictures and stuff like that for me. Because
Oh,
so I can make some edits even before it gets
okay,
sent to me because it's
yeah,
abroad. So, I mean, customs is very expensive. So even before they send it to me, they want to get some feedback on whether they're on the right track and stuff. So,
yeah.
so I would say from drawing to tech pack to sample, maybe like 2 to 3 months.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. It takes some time.
Yeah, but I think that it's cool that the current factory that you work with, they, keep you up to date with those things. I think that's honestly very smart and can save a lot of money and time.
Very good. I mean, they're deadline driven, like they respond to my emails and it's really important. And I just want to note that as a startup, a lot of factories are not going to take you in. Like they're not going to take a chance on you. So I was grateful for that first factory taking a chance on us. It just was not a good fit.
Mhm.
But our current factory, I'm really happy with.
That's really good to hear. And now we're down to our final question. I do want to
Mhm.
ask you, what is one piece of advice that you want to give to the tall girls who are listening right now, who are struggling with their self-esteem because of their height?
I would say don't shrink yourself to fit in or for other people. Just realize that nobody is perfect and everyone is dealing with something. So give yourself grace, give them grace, and don't shrink yourself is definitely what I would say.
I honestly love that advice. Thank you so much for that. And please, can you tell us where to find you on the internet?
Okay, so we're on Instagram. Please go follow us at Etta Grove Footwear, ETTAGROVE Footwear. Also, we're on Facebook and also ettagrove.com. Of course, our website is where you can find us.
Yes, everything is going to be linked in the description along
Okay.
with the survey. Do you want to talk a little bit about the survey before we end off?
Right. Okay. Thank you. So, in trying to find out what people who wear large sizes want from a brand that provides shoes, like I said, I consider ours a lifestyle brand, but I guess a footwear brand. We created this survey to ask like, what price point, how often, what do you want to see in your footwear brand? Have you shopped at a Grove before? Why or why not? Basically, what are we doing that you like? What are we doing that we could do better? Just to try to get a sense of community, to engage people so that we can be the best extended size footwear brand, to really establish a community of people who feel comfortable engaging us. Because basically, when you reach out to Etta Grove, you're reaching out to one of us. Like we're a small business. So it's me, one of my daughters, looking at who are my co-founders, looking at what you're sending to us.
Awesome. And that's going to be linked in the description as well. I
Thank
filled it
you.
out. It did not take super long, and
Oh,
I'm a
thanks.
very, very slow reader. So, world record for me. And I also want to say to the audio listeners right now, Alexis did show a couple of her pieces, on the camera. So I would definitely recommend watching the video version of this so you're able to see that and see her process and see her designs. And I'm going to take a moment to plug myself at a Tall Girls podcast, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest. All of the videos for this, social media videos, the survey, the link to the survey, I'm also going to post that on my story. So everything is there for you guys. That's also going to be linked in the description. And yeah, thank you again so much. Oh,
Thank
just
you
for
so
being
much for allowing us to come on and share about Etta Grove. It
of
was a pleasure. Hopefully, you get to vacation soon again.
fingers crossed, fingers crossed. And thank you again, listeners, for tuning in. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Good night and goodbye.